The president saying, no, the government is not listening in on your phone calls. This is his first response to this outcry over the government data mining story that erupted late Wednesday. He took a question on the matter while in California today, and he answered for nearly 10 minutes. Here he was, the president.
I came in with a healthy skepticism about these programs. My team evaluated them. We scrubbed them thoroughly. We actually expanded some of the oversight, increased some of the safeguards. But my assessment and my team's assessment was that they help us prevent terrorist attacks. But I think it's important to recognize that you can't have 100% security and also then have 100% privacy and zero inconvenience. We're going to have to make some choices.
So that is the word straight from the president. And keep in mind, since last time we met right here, this time yesterday, we have now heard the second government data mining effort that calls into question our eroding sense of privacy. And we're going to go there in just a moment here. But first, let me go straight to Jessica Yellen, our chief White House correspondent. You are out there traveling with the president. And so, Jessica, ironically enough, we need to point out that the president is in California eventually this evening to meet with the leader of China and to press allegations of Chinese hacking against the United States. Obviously, though, the president found it necessary to take that final question after talking about the health care and to try to tamp down the emotions surrounding this huge story.
It is an interesting juxtaposition, Brooke, that the president pressing China about their own cyber attacks when looked at through a certain lens. You could say the federal government is doing its own cyber intrusion into U.S. corporations to get data about people that they're concerned about. Now, I want to read you something. Just listen to this for a moment. Quote, "We do not listen to domestic phone calls without court approval, and this government will continue to guard the privacy of the American people." Who do you think that was? That was George Bush in 2006, defending his NSA surveillance program. And I would argue that it should not come as a surprise that the president, while he says he's put in new safeguards, et cetera, has continued that program in the largest sense, because he voted to continue the law authorizing it. He broke with Hillary Clinton in his fierce defense of it in 2008, and he has been a aggressive defender of these kinds of programs during his time in office. He did make clear, I'll say, Brooke, that Congress has oversight of this and the courts do, but we should point out that the details of this are only shared in classified settings in a way where the public cannot find out about them. So it's a very small set of people who have known about it until now.
Yeah, he mentioned congressional oversight a couple of times when he spoke today, and the federal judges and the audit process, of course. But as you know and I know, and our viewers know, this goes back
classified settings.
Yes. 7 years. Jessica Yellen, thank you very much. And we mentioned this before here. This is a second surveillance program that is now coming to light. Two respected papers. You have the Washington Post, you have London's Guardian. They say that the NSA and the FBI are acquiring personal data of non-Americans via 9 leading internet firms. You see them right here on your screen. So now we know it's not just phone records, which we talked about yesterday in depth, but also photographs and emails. Although, let me stress again, the government says it does not access Americans' online data, just that of non-Americans, suspected, bad guys. This is a big point to remember here. Remarkable here is how well-intentioned and thoughtful individuals are seeing this matter in dramatically different ways. So with us now from New York, noted civil rights attorney Alan Dershowitz, and from Dallas, Ben Ferguson, host of the Ben Ferguson radio show. And since, Ben, you were with us yesterday, you're back for day 2. Let me defer to first Alan Dershowitz, the good professor, on this one first. And Alan, this is my first question. We watched you on Piers Morgan last night, and one thing you said that struck me was we need to take a deep breath before we react, because we don't really know what's going on here. But isn't that part of the problem, Professor, that we really don't know what's going on? We don't know what we don't know, to quote you, and that we think we know what's happening, but that may really just be the tip of the iceberg? You with me?
Absolutely, yes. I mean, in a democracy, you have to know what you don't know. And sometimes we're prepared to give up our ability to know something in order to keep secrets from our enemies. Remember today that anything we know, they know. The great tragedy is that the story was broken by a man named Glenn Greenwald from The Guardian. He's an America basher. He hates America. He's an apologist for terrorism. He says a little terrorism is not a bad thing. It's like being struck by lightning. In fact, he doesn't even approve of the use of the word terrorism. He said terrorism is an excuse for allowing America and America's allies to use our own state terrorism. So he's the worst possible person to begin this debate. We need nuance. We need calibration. We need, as the president correctly said, to be willing to compromise with some privacy and some convenience, as long as we have oversight, as long as it doesn't go too far, as long as we limit it to gathering general information, and when we get particularized information, we need to have a warrant. We need to reduce the secrecy that our courts operate under, but let's not let Glenn Greenwald and his anti-American group push us into a paranoia. This is not Watergate. He makes it sound like the president is doing this in order to get political information
Ben
against his
Ferguson
enemies.
is laughing. The mention of Watergate. Ben, jump in.
This is a classic example of attack the person who gave us legitimate information, make him into a terrorist-loving, un-American human being, and then just discredit who he is as a person, when the reality is what he reported on is factually correct and accurate. You didn't say that anything that he reported on was factually incorrect or accurate.
Absolutely.
So
a lot
you
of
try
it is
to smear
inaccurate.
him
No,
personally.
a lot of it
now,
is inaccurate.
Hold on.
Yeah, okay.
Let me say this, though. You look at what has come forward on this, and as an American citizen, do I have the right to not have to worry about search and seizure of information that I am using, whether it be the internet, email, or my phone records, without probable cause from the government? The last I checked, the Constitution says that I have, and every American should have, a legitimate right to not have to worry about the government coming in and data mining my entire existence that has now been reported to the American people. And that's why people have a problem with it, because this is outside the scope of terrorists. Terrorist suspects are those that are talking to terrorists, and that's why people are reacting this way.
Let me jump in because, Ben, this is also to you. And again, you're a conservative. You come on the show as a conservative. But let me just read you something from this is from the editorial page of the Wall Street Journal, also known to be quite conservative. Quote, data mining is less intrusive on individuals than routine airport security. Let me stress, they say less intrusive than routine airport security. The data sweep is worth it if it prevents terror attacks that would lead politicians to endorse far greater harm to civil liberties.
Let's remember, too.
Brooke, let me say this about the Wall Street Journal.
Ben first. Go ahead.
Let me say this about the Wall Street Journal. I have a right at the airport to not ever fly if I don't want to have the government look at my stuff, go through my bag, or make me walk through a metal detector. I have the ability to opt out of that by choosing not to fly. What the government is doing with the data mining today, you and I, no one watching right now, has the right to opt out of it, in the words of the government and what they're doing. That is two totally different scenarios that the Wall Street Journal should have pointed out, that you can choose to just get in your car and drive from point A to point B.
Let me just express the view that we heard from the president today talking in California, again saying it is phone numbers when it comes to the phone calls. It's not the content of the conversation. Specifically on emails, it's not U.S. residents, U.S. citizens, it's folks abroad, and it's metadata, which we're going to get into the technical stuff later in the show. But there's a fine line. Alan Dershowitz, jump in.
We're hearing a lot of lies about what's going on. A lot of lies. We heard lies last night from Greenwald. He says that we're not targeting terrorism. He says this is because we want to get political information against political opponents. It's just not the case. For 50 years, we've had data mining. Right now, it's been permitted under the law without a search warrant to find out if you send letters, who the letters are going to, who the letters are going from. Almost all the information is available today to private companies, Google. It's much worse when the government can put it all together.
And that's what people take issue with.
These are serious issues that ought to be debated, but they should not be overstated. There is a paranoid streak in American life radio talk show hosts tend to foment that paranoid streak in American life. People like Greenwald tend to foment the paranoid streak in America. Now you have to let me finish.
Hang on,
now you have
let the
to let me
professor
finish.
finish. Let
now
the
you have to
professor
let me
finish.
finish.
Go ahead.
Let's find the facts. Let's
Yes.
not overstate the facts.
Okay.
Then let's have considered decisions about how to balance the real need to prevent terrorism with the real need to preserve our privacy.
Ben
That's a
Ferguson,
very important balance.
it's a valid concern because people are saying we only know potentially a sliver of what's going on. So how can we even have a well-informed debate about this?
That's right, and
when
we
you
have
see
to know
the
more. We
information,
have to know more about the general.
let me jump in here. That when I see government officials and guys that are sitting on the TV next to me today trying to personally bash anyone that gets in the way of what it is he wants, that's a red flag to me. When he says that talk show hosts and everyone else is overreacting and everyone else is acting like they don't know what they're talking about and they're lying to you and they're lying to you. I've heard that a lot in politicians' lives, and I've heard that from people who, for example, Richard Nixon, congressmen, senators who say, well, you're just paranoid. Here's what we do know. We know a lot of information is being looked at by people that are not connected to terrorists, including every phone number that is being used, for example, in the Verizon network. That's a fact. So I'm not paranoid to ask the question of a government who has lied to us about targeting people through the IRS, who have attacked reporters who are reporting on stories in the last month, who lied to us about Benghazi, to say maybe I don't trust you with this information.
All right, gentlemen, we're going to keep asking the questions, and we potentially really, as a professor is saying, only know a sliver of this.
Don't trust, verify, find
We are
the facts,
verifying. We
right?
want the facts. Alan Dershowitz and Ben Ferguson, gentlemen, thank you very much.